More preseason action. We're creeping a little bit closer to week 1 of the regular season. Welcome to Game Day Kickoff. We are presented by Safa, along with David Carr and Steve Weich. Mike Am with you. All right, a week ago, we're spending all this time talking about Shedeur. Now, all of a sudden, Dillon Gabriel says, "Oh, it's my turn to get an opportunity." Take me back, man. Not that long ago.
It was a while ago.
Okay. You get that first NFL action in the preseason. What's that actually like? What's going through Dillon Gabriel's head?
I mean, you got to find out if you belong. That's really what it is. Because you know that you've played this game your whole life. You're prepared for it. Obviously, you're locked in. You got the headphones on. You're doing all the mental gymnastics. But you want to know that you fit in this system, in this team, on this game, on this field. So that's what Dillon's going to have to battle through. And all it takes is the first couple plays. You'll know speed-wise. You'll be like, oh, this is kind of just like it was in college. And especially if you're locked in mentally. Steve, that's the biggest thing is like the mental approach for the quarterback. You got to make sure things slow down there first. Because physically, you'll be able to catch up. Eventually, that stuff happens. I mean, I've seen 40-year-olds play this game, right, at quarterback. So, Dillon, you have plenty of athleticism. It's just the mental side of it. Like, let's slow things down in your head. Go over your game plan. Go over the first 10 or 15 plays they're going to have you run, and you'll be just fine.
And everything we know about his mental makeup is he will be locked in. I mean, that's one thing that's got him this far. And look, he's got a chance to level things up. He saw Shedeur Sanders come out and make his mark and put his stamp up, but that doesn't mean Dillon Gabriel can't. Yeah. So this is a great opportunity with him after having a couple joint practices with the Eagles this week as well.
Yeah, third-round pick, obviously, for this Cleveland Browns team. This is a quarterback room that has been much discussed throughout the course of this season, starting to get a little bit more clarity as the preseason rolls on. Meanwhile, Judy Batista is in Philadelphia right now, a steamy Philadelphia. Judy, I know all eyes will be on Dillon Gabriel. What do I need to know about this start?
Well, this is, as you guys were just saying, a huge opportunity for Dillon Gabriel, the third-round draft pick. He missed a few days with a little hamstring injury. Of course, it's little because it's not mine, but it was a relatively mild hamstring injury. He missed a few practices. He did miss the preseason game last week, and as you pointed out, that gave Shedeur Sanders a huge platform, and he took advantage of it, throwing 2 touchdown passes. Shedeur played 47 snaps. Well, Dillon Gabriel is probably going to get a big workload today. We watched him go through this throwing session. The Browns actually waited until this morning to make a final determination if he was going to play. They wanted to make sure he woke up and the hamstring felt good because he did participate in the joint practices during the week. He went through about a 30-minute throwing session that we watched. He looked totally comfortable, totally fine. So they are going to put him out there. This is a big opportunity for Dillon Gabriel, as you guys mentioned, to catch up to Shedeur Sanders. He has been listed all along on the depth charts, unofficial depth charts, as the third quarterback of the 4 with Shedeur behind him. But Shedeur jumped out ahead when Dillon Gabriel could not play last week. We'll see if Dillon Gabriel can catch up today.
Well, Judy, you make reference to some of these other quarterbacks. What's the expectation level today on how they're all handled?
Well, let's go through in order of the depth chart. Joe Flacco, who is #1 and is, let's be honest, he's going to be named the starting quarterback probably as soon as this week coming up. He is not going to play. We watched him walk around out here in street clothes. He has been very good in practices in the last 2 weeks. He's had a lot of opportunities during practice because Kenny Pickett, who is listed as #2 on the depth chart and who was really expected to compete with Joe Flacco for the starting job, he suffered a hamstring injury 3 weeks ago today and still has not been able to practice fully. He's come back, he's participated in 7-on-7s, but has not been able to do any of 11-on-11 work since then, so that has certainly set him behind. He is not playing. He did not play last week. There is maybe some hope that he could get on the field for next week. We watched him throw a few passes in warm-ups here again, but no guarantee that he's going to be able to play next week in the preseason finale. Dillon Gabriel, we know is going to play today, and then Shedeur Sanders, who suffered an oblique strain in the first day of the joint practices with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's been shut down for a few days, but there is optimism that Shedeur is going to be able to play next week in the preseason finale. We saw him out here throwing the ball around. He looked comfortable too. So the hope, certainly for the Browns, is that they will have all 4 quarterbacks available for next week. We will see.
And if that is the case, Judy, I know we will be all over that storyline here on NFL Network. Stay cool. I know we will talk to you coming up here on Game Day Kickoff. We'll continue this conversation as it pertains to the quarterback, Sam Darnold, using that during the course of this season. Meanwhile, Jalen Hurts, yeah, your Super Bowl MVP. A lot of conversation about where he sits in the landscape of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Get an opportunity to see him and his teammates coming up in less than an hour.
This next year's Lombardi.
Yeah, exactly. Two dudes, maybe one. Well, we got one on the depth chart, QB1. I don't know where Shedeur Sanders is going to live, but those two guys having a conversation. Not going to see Joe we could talk about their defense, and yet everyone wants to focus in on this offense. We've seen changes over the years to the coaching staff, but you know, in our meeting this morning, you're talking about play calling and why that is going to be such an impactful display of what we see in terms of the product on the field.
Yeah, so Kevin Patullo is going to come in. And honestly, like, when I heard the name, I was like, okay, he's been in that building for a while. He has, Kevin, I mean, obviously he has the trust of that organization. But then to be thrust into the play caller role, it's a little bit different. So I think that's where I'm kind of concerned, and I'm hesitant, because in the past, this hasn't gone great. They've had guys inside the building call plays for Jalen, and it took a while, even took a while for Kellen Moore to kind of figure out what he wanted to do. Now, these guys play a simple brand of football. I mean, it can be a little eccentric at times, but it is downhill running game with Saquon. That has simplified a lot of things. We've talked about how good they are in the trenches. So Kevin's going to come in, and he's just tasked with copy and pasting what they did the last couple of years. Use the inside run game, obviously put Jalen in those situations, but I think the stuff on the outside will kind of, it'll happen on its own. You don't have to force this passing game stuff. Like, don't come in and try and reinvent the wheel. I heard some things even in Detroit, like, oh, we got to use the route tree more. I'm like, no, you don't. You got to run the ball downhill with your quarterback, with your running back, and then play catch with those guys outside. So it's just a little bit of a hiccup on a great football team. Like, let's just see how it pans out. Kevin has been associate head coach. Nick Sirianni doesn't make a decision without asking Kevin. Okay, so but now he's calling plays. So let's just see how that dynamic is early.
What's going to be interesting, and I want to go to your experience on this, David. Like, Jalen Hurts now, he's got the Super Bowl, right? He's got a lot of cachet.
Yep.
Is he at the point where if things aren't really going well with Patullo, or where he feels empowered enough to be like, hey, look, let's do this? Like, maybe Jalen, and we know he's a quiet guy. We don't know how that dynamic has worked before with Kellen Moore. But don't you think he's at the stage of his career like, okay, let's do what works this way or that way?
Well, Jalen is so great. I even heard a soundbite coming in today, and listening to him talk about how he's still learning. He still wants to be a guy that doesn't feel like he has all the answers. And so I think that's it's a great posture for a quarterback. But at the same time, if you're not comfortable with something, then it doesn't matter if the coach likes it. It doesn't matter if Kevin Patullo wants to run his 5 favorite plays. If you don't feel comfortable with any of these, we're not running them, right? So for Jalen, take a little ownership. I know he will. But he just has such a great demeanor and such great leadership. I think they'll be fine.
Is that not standard? Because not for nothing, I've worked at NFL Network for the last few years, and I've heard analysts like you say, hey, if it's an offensive coordinator, for example, hey, we're going to run what this guy likes. Isn't that standard? Shouldn't that be a standard, like the fact that you're bringing that up?
Well, you would think so, man. But the head coaches, and even play callers, they have the way that they've done things forever. It's fed their families, and it's kept their jobs. And so if they don't feel comfortable with something, having a young guy, even if it's a great quarterback like Jalen, say, oh, we're going to do it this way. I'm like, not really. Like, this is what I've always done. They're creatures of habit.
It should be, but it not always is.
Yeah. It's kind of wild. What's that old coaching phrase about the X's and O's, the Jimmys and Joes? If Jimmy and Joe like it a certain way, let's make sure that Jimmy and Joe get it that way. All right, let's keep it in the division. Ian Rappaport joins us right now for a little bit of news. And obviously, this is a Washington team, Ian, that has had some buzz because of the contract situation regarding wide receiver Terry McLaurin. What do I need to know about this?
Well, today there was progress. No, not in the contract negotiations between the Washington Commanders and Terry McLaurin, but progress as far as getting McLaurin back on the field. He was officially pulled from the PUP list. He was made the process of getting McLaurin ready to be on the football field and practicing, what they call the ramp-up period. As Dan Quinn said today, they believe in their return to play protocol, and that is where they're going to go step by step with Terry McLaurin. It's about 2 weeks or a little more before the season. They need to get him actually some way, figure out a way to get this done. But what this does mean is that McLaurin should be practicing soon and gearing up to actually play football.
Yeah, I'm sure Jaden Daniels can't wait for that moment to happen. Meanwhile, Ian, you've been kind of hanging with us the last couple of weeks on our shows, and I keep asking you about Matthew Stafford. And the more I ask you about it, the more concerned I get for Rams fans. What's the latest on his health?
I think it's fair to say the Rams, and for Rams fans, don't really quite have an answer yet on their star quarterback, Matthew Stafford. In his late 30s, dealing with an aggravated disc in his back. Remember, a week ago today, Stafford threw about 60 balls on a football field, all sorts of different angles, really to gear up and return to practice on Monday for the first time all training camp. He did the throws, was not able to come back to practice. He was It's not like he had a setback, he just wasn't ready. So today, they're going to try again. Stafford is going to have a workout. He's going to do a variety of throws, as Sean McVay told reporters recently. They're going to do some things different and maybe more in line with getting Stafford back on the practice field, maybe pull back a little bit. But what they want is a little bit of progress. They want him the next day, the day after, to feel better, to try to get on the field Monday. Still time to get him ready for the season. They are still optimistic he'll be ready week 1, but he's got to be out there eventually to do it.
You know, a season ago, this is a Rams team that piled up some losses because of some health issues on their offensive line. I got to imagine can't afford another slow start this season. This team's on the short list for winning a Super Bowl this year, and a lot of it will come down to the health of Matthew Stafford. I know as these details continue to unfold, Ian, you will have us covered here on NFL Network. All right, it is time for Dream Big Plays presented by